So for 52 years, people have wanted to end Roe v. Wade to get it back to the states. We did that. It was an incredible thing, an incredible achievement. We did that, and now the states have it, and the states are putting out what they want. Individual people that have their own agenda, people are very happy with by Senator Washington.
The vast majority of Americans, including nearly half of Republicans, support a federally guaranteed right to abortion.
You're right, Harris, that a lot of Republicans would love to talk about this. The problem is we just saw 8 minutes of a very angry, vengeful presidential candidate who took credit for sending abortion decisions back to the states, where in a key swing state, Arizona, they're trying to take women's rights back to the Civil War. Right, that is deeply unpopular. He said that if Jews vote for Democrats, they should have their heads examined. There is a reason that Donald Trump has a hard ceiling on his support. It's always been around 46 or 47%. And there's a reason that he hasn't been able in any election he's ever run in to actually to go above that hard ceiling, because he is so polarizing, he is so vindictive, and he's so angry.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
And the scary thing is, those are just a few of the many reasons Trump continues to alienate huge swaths of the Republican base, none more so than his draconian views on abortion.
Well, I blame Donald Trump for the recalling of Roe versus Wade. That is what started this, that's for sure.
I blame the Republicans for this.
Well, it's hard not to blame the person who, back in 2015, really started this hateful movement, and Donald Trump has been at the center of that.
Trump has changed his views on abortion at least 13 times over the years because he only cares about himself, and women have paid the price. Trump boasts how it is because of the Supreme Court justices he appointed that Roe was overturned.
This 50-year battle over Roe v. Wade took it out of the federal hands and brought it into the hearts, minds, and vote of the people in each state. Was really something.
You answered some questions about abortion, but do you think a doctor should be punished who perform abortions?
I'll let that be to the states. Everything we're doing now is states and states' rights. And what we wanted to do is get it back to the states, because for 53 years it's been a fight. And now the states are handling it. And some have handled it very well, and the others will end up handling it very well. And those are the things that states are going to make a determination about. Okay?
It's because of him that there is chaos and confusion in this country around the most personal decision a woman could ever make, and why doctors around this country are afraid of providing health care to these women even when they are seriously ill. This is what happens when our basic civil rights, our privacy rights, are not protected on a federal level. In Arizona, a 160-year-old law passed before women had the right to vote, and that was now deemed the law of the state by the Arizona Supreme Court. That law was passed long ago during a countrywide push to legislate morality. Thinkers of the time, such as Dr. Storr, argued that married women had a moral and societal obligation to have children. And it is because of Trump that these thinkers now govern women's choices in Arizona.
In 1862, the Confederacy and the Union fought for control of Arizona, and the Union won at the height of the Civil War, when states and territories like Arizona looked something like this. Dirt roads with horse-drawn buggies, and only white men had the right to vote. In 1864, slavery was not yet abolished, and the question of whether the United States would remain united and free was being answered in a war that wouldn't end until 1865 and would result in the deaths of more than 600,000 Americans, two-thirds of whom died from infectious diseases, not artillery fire. And that's because in the 1860s, doctors were still figuring out what germs were. It was not yet common practice for doctors to wash their hands before surgery or when delivering a baby. 1864 was before doctors knew how reproduction worked on a cellular level, with the eggs and the sperm. And it was under those conditions, where basic reproduction was still a mystery, where basic medical protocols were not yet in place, and all men had to be part of something called a posse comitatus. It was under those conditions in 1864 that legislators in the Arizona territory passed a near total ban on abortion. punishing anyone who performed an abortion with up to 5 years in prison.
I grew up in Arizona, and I can tell you that I have received a bunch of messages from women who are understandably upset. The thing about Arizona is it prides itself on its independent spirit. Being told what to do by men who lived 160 years ago doesn't sit quite well with these women. It might just motivate them.
A lot of things were done with Roe by killing it. Number one, we brought it back to the states.
Of course, your justices to the Supreme Court have made that possible.
They did.
Yeah.
And you know, they did something that from a lot of standpoints is extremely good.
I would say, though, that it's not as if Democrats need to make up the evidence for this one. Donald Trump said, I killed Roe v. Wade. That is his legacy. And for the religious right, for instance, who it is a pure and simple morality issue, that makes him a hero. Mm-hmm. For Nikki Haley's supporters, that makes him difficult to stomach in a lot of ways, because we are seeing these 6-week abortion bans, like what's going to show up in Florida. And most people who have spoken to a woman know that you don't even get a heartbeat scan before 6 weeks. There's also a tremendous misconception about who is getting abortions. And Jesse demonstrates that quite beautifully, the misconception, because he said, we're not talking to young single women.
The right to an abortion will most likely be on the ballot in Arizona, and we should expect the voters there to be motivated. According to a University of Arizona poll conducted last month, only 7% of voters there supported a complete ban on abortion without exceptions. The 160-year-old law is such a law. And according to a Wall Street Journal poll, out of the 7 swing states, voters in Arizona were more likely to say that they wouldn't support a candidate that disagrees with them on abortion.
Abortion, IVF, playing a role. Democrat running on abortion and IVF access wins the special election in Alabama. Maryland lands flipped a state house seat in the deep red state by 25 percentage points, underscoring the continued political potency of reproductive rights. Don't know if that's a canary in the coal mine, but it is interesting in Alabama. If you look at our poll, Katie, best describes the issues, view on abortion, always legal, 35%, mostly legal, 24%. There you see the breakdown.
Fact check, Democrats do not believe in execution after birth, and the claim that both sides demanded the end of Roe versus Wade is completely false. In fact, new polling indicates the vast majority of Americans, including nearly half of Republicans, support a federally guaranteed right to abortion.
So despite Trump saying one thing, his press secretary said he supports Arizona law
on the issue, and he supports that. It was his Supreme Court justices, after all, that overturned Roe v. Wade, which was the biggest win for the pro-life movement in 50 years. Now, he has also said that when he is president again, he'll bring both sides to the negotiating table to come up with a solution federally.
Republicans have lost every election since 2016 when abortion was on the ballot.
I do this. Donald Trump lost in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and last night. Wow.
Okay. What makes them think this November will be any different?
What he promised he would do, he said something about abortion. What he didn't do is tell anyone what he would do about it if he is president again.
Arizona's Supreme Court, a court made up of all Republican appointees, have ruled in a 4-2 decision that physicians are now on notice that all abortions, except those necessary to save a woman's life, are illegal. That decision and the timing is truly stranger than fiction. It happened just a day after Donald Trump said, leave it to the states to make up their minds on abortion. Now, the country has firsthand evidence of what exactly a 50-state patchwork approach to abortion would actually look like. The GOP spent 50 years trying to eradicate Roe versus Wade, but now that they have, the aftermath isn't pleasant. And only now that the electoral consequences of all of this are becoming more clear, Republicans are acknowledging that laws like the one on the books in Arizona simply are not good ones. That Arizona law, it's not just decades old, it is generations old. It is nearly 160 years old.
Trying to do right now in Florida is say there's an abortion ban so early that many women would not even know they're pregnant yet when this abortion ban goes into place. Donald Trump has to live with that reality because he created it, he has fostered it, and he is running for president on it. Abortion will be on the ballot in 2024, and the American people don't want what Donald Trump is trying to sell.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.